They laughed at me in that hallway. Not quietly, not awkwardly. They laughed like I was a joke that had been waiting years to be told. The courthouse smelled like old paper, dust, and burned coffee from a machine that never worked right. Fluorescent lights buzzed above us, flickering like they couldn't decide whether to stay on or give up. My heels echoed on the tile floor, too loud for a woman who had just been told she was getting nothing. Nothing. That word kept bouncing inside my head as I stood there. My hands clenched so tight my nails left half moon marks in my palms. The lawyer's voice was still ringing in my ears, calm and polite, like he hadn't just erased my entire future with one sentence. I watched my stepmother smile first, then my brother. Then my aunt tilted her head and let out that soft little laugh people use when they feel superior, like they'd won. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from. And if you've ever faced betrayal, hit like and subscribe, because what happened next will shock you. I had known something was wrong the moment I walked into that room. The air felt heavy, like a storm about to break. My family sat together on one side, legs crossed, arms relaxed, comfortable, confident. Meanwhile, I stood alone, clutching a cheap folder that held all my hopes. The will reading didn't take long. It never does when you're not in it. After all assets and properties have been distributed, the lawyer said, adjusting his glasses, there are no remaining allocations. No remaining allocations. Translation. I got left with nothing, no house, no money, no heirlooms. Not even the old piano my father used to play late at night when he thought nobody was listening. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. My chest felt tight, like someone was slowly pressing down with both hands. I looked at my brother Marcus. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He just smirked, like this confirmed something he'd always believed, that I didn't belong in their world. Guess hard work didn't pay off after all, my aunt whispered, not even trying to keep her voice down. My stepmother, Lorraine, finally stood up. Her heels clicked toward me, deliberate and sharp. She smelled like expensive perfume, something floral and cold. Well, she said, placing a hand on my shoulder, squeezing just a little too hard. I hope you'll finally learn how things really work. Things. Like loyalty doesn't matter. Like blood can be rewritten on paper. Like love disappears when money enters the room. I didn't cry. Not there. Not in front of them. But inside something cracked. As we walked out of the courthouse, sunlight hit my face, too bright for what I felt inside. Cars passed. People laughed. Life kept moving like my world hadn't just collapsed. Marcus unlocked his new black SUV, paid for with money that should have been shared, and leaned against it. He looked at me like he was doing me a favor by even speaking. You always were Dad's charity case, he said. Guess he finally stopped feeling sorry for you. I felt my heart pound in my ears. My fingers trembled. You know that's not true, I said quietly. Lorraine laughed again, loud this time. Oh, sweetie, she said, waving her hand like she was brushing off lint. Truth is whatever's written in ink. And your name wasn't. They drove away together, tires crunching over gravel, leaving me standing alone in that parking lot with the heat rising off the asphalt. I sat in my car for a long time after that. Didn't start the engine, didn't check my phone. The inside of my old sedan smelled like fast food wrappers and cheap air freshener. Vanilla. The same one my dad used to buy when he borrowed my car, because he said it reminded him of home. My dad. That was the part nobody talked about. Not the money, not the properties. Him. He was the man who stayed up late helping me study when I was the only black girl in my honors classes. The man who worked double shifts so I could go to college. The man who told me over and over, I've got you. Always. So how did always turn into nothing? The drive home was a blur. Red lights, horns, sirens in the distance. The city felt louder than usual, harsher. Every billboard advertising luxury cars and designer brands felt like an insult. When I got back to my apartment, A one-bedroom walk-up with chipped paint and noisy neighbors. I kicked off my shoes and sank onto the couch. Springs creaked beneath me. I stared at the ceiling fan as it spun slowly, wobbling like it might fall any second. That's when my phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. Check your email now. My stomach twisted. I sat up, heart racing, and grabbed my laptop. The fan clicked overhead. My fingers shook as I typed in my password. There it was. An email marked urgent from a law firm I'd never heard of. I opened it. The words blurred together at first. Legal language, formal tone. But one sentence punched through everything else, stopping my breath completely. There appears to be a sealed addendum related to your father's estate that was never disclosed during today's proceedings. Sealed addendum. My pulse roared in my ears. I reread the line, again and again. Another message popped up beneath it. Please call us immediately. This matter is time-sensitive. I looked around my tiny apartment, the peeling wallpaper, the thrift store furniture, the life they thought I was stuck with forever. Outside sirens wailed somewhere far away. A neighbor slammed a door. The city kept breathing. But I couldn't, because suddenly, I wasn't so sure they'd won after all. And deep down, I felt something I hadn't felt all day. Hope. But what I didn't know yet was that this secret wouldn't just change my life. It would destroy theirs. It would destroy theirs. Not all at once, not loudly, but slow and irreversible. I stared at that email until the screen dimmed and the letters burned into my eyes. My laptop hummed softly on my knees, the only sound in the room besides the distant traffic outside my window. I could still hear Lorraine's laugh in my head, still see Marcus leaning against that SUV like the world owed him something. My phone buzzed again. Same number. I didn't answer right away. My heart was pounding too hard, like it needed a moment to catch up with what my mind was starting to understand. My father didn't forget me. He couldn't have. That wasn't who he was. I finally pressed call. "Ms. Thompson?" a man said, his voice calm, measured, professional. "Yes," I replied. My voice came out quieter than I meant it to. "This is Daniel Price. I'm an estate attorney in Chicago. Your father retained our firm 2 years ago." 2 years. That alone told me everything I needed to know. Whatever this was, it wasn't an accident. He continued, "There is a supplemental document attached to your father's will. It was sealed under specific instructions, and frankly, it should not have been overlooked today." My stomach tightened. "What kind of document?" There was a brief pause, papers shifting, a breath. "A trust," he said, "one that names you as the sole beneficiary." The room felt like it tilted. "Sole beneficiary," I whispered. "Yes, ma'am?" I slid off the couch and sat on the floor, my back against the coffee table. My legs felt weak, like they couldn't hold me upright anymore. The ceiling fan rattled overhead, faster now, like it sensed the shift too. "But they said there was nothing," I said. They laughed. They acted on incomplete information. He interrupted gently. Or information they believed would stay buried. My fingers curled into the carpet. It smelled faintly of detergent and something old, something worn. My apartment had never felt smaller. "What's in the trust?" I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. "Multiple properties, investment accounts, and controlling shares in 2 logistics companies your father acquired quietly over the last decade." I closed my eyes. Logistics companies. The same industry Marcus bragged about getting into with his inheritance. The same companies Lorraine had once joked were too boring to mention. Quietly. Just like my father always did things. "Why wasn't it read today?" I asked. "Because your father stipulated that it only be unsealed if you were present, and if certain behaviors occurred." My chest tightened. "What behaviors?" Daniel exhaled slowly. Any attempt by other beneficiaries to exclude you entirely. Silence filled the line. I laughed once, not happy, not relieved, just stunned. So he knew, I said. He knew they'd do this. He was very deliberate, Daniel replied. He told us to wait 72 hours before making contact. He wanted to see who people really were. I thought of Lorraine's hand squeezing my shoulder, Marcus's smirk, my aunt's whisper. They'd shown themselves perfectly. What happens now? I asked. Now, he said, we correct the record. But I need to warn you. This won't stay quiet. I looked around my apartment again, at the thrift store couch, the chipped mug on the counter, the life they assumed I was trapped in. I'm not afraid, I said. I meant it more than I realized. The next morning, I went to work like nothing had changed. Same bus ride, same cracked stop sign, same stale smell of burnt toast in the break room. My coworkers chatted about weekend plans while I sat at my desk answering emails like my world wasn't splitting open in real time. At lunch, my phone buzzed. A news alert. Local business heirs celebrate major inheritance ruling. Marcus's face filled the screen, smiling, confident. Lorraine standing beside him in a cream-colored suit. I almost choked on my water. They were celebrating already. I screenshotted it and forwarded it to Daniel. His reply came fast. Let them. That afternoon dragged. Every minute felt like a countdown I wasn't allowed to announce. I clocked out, took the bus home, and stopped by the corner store like I always did. The cashier gave me the usual nod. Nothing looked different, but it was. That evening, Daniel called again. We're filing the motion to unseal first thing tomorrow, he said. There will be a hearing. You need to be present. I thought of the courthouse hallway, the laughter. I'll be there, I said. Sleep didn't come easily. I lay in bed staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars my dad helped me stick to the ceiling when I was 10. He said, even when things were dark, there should be something to look up at. Around midnight, my phone lit up. Marcus. I let it ring. Then Lorraine. I turned the phone face down and smiled for the first time since the will reading. By morning, the messages were piling up. We need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding. Call me now. I dressed slowly, chose my clothes carefully. A black dress. Simple, clean lines. Hair pulled back neat and tight. No jewelry except the small gold necklace my father gave me years ago. The courthouse looked the same as before. Same buzzing lights. Same smell of old paper and coffee. But this time, when I walked through those doors, I wasn't alone. Daniel met me at the entrance. Tall, calm, confident. They're already inside, he said quietly. I nodded. As we walked down the hallway, I heard it. Raised voices. Lorraine's sharp tone. Marcus snapping back. Panic creeping into words that used to sound so sure. Daniel opened the courtroom door. Every head turned. Lorraine's face drained of color. Marcus stood halfway out of his chair. The judge looked up, eyebrows lifting slightly. And for the first time since my father died, I watched my family realize something was terribly, dangerously wrong. The room went silent the moment I stepped inside. Not polite silence, not respectful silence, the kind that drops heavy like a curtain falling too early. Lorraine's hand froze mid-gesture. Marcus's mouth stayed open like he'd forgotten what words were supposed to do next. Even my aunt stiffened, her eyes darting between me and Daniel like she was recalculating every insult she'd ever whispered. I could hear my own breathing, slow, steady, louder than it should have been. The judge adjusted his glasses and looked at Daniel. Counsel? Daniel didn't rush. He set his briefcase down with a quiet click that echoed through the room. Your Honor, he said, we're here regarding a sealed addendum to the estate of Robert Thompson, one that directly contradicts the distributions finalized at the previous hearing. Lorraine let out a short, sharp laugh. Too sharp, too fast. That's impossible, she said, standing. Everything was handled already? Properly? The judge raised a hand. Ms. Thompson, please sit. She didn't. Her knuckles whitened as she gripped the back of her chair. Marcus finally found his voice. She's just trying to stir something up. She does this. I didn't look at him. Not yet. Daniel slid a folder forward, thick, red, stamped with words that made Lorraine's breath hitch, sealed by court order. Your Honor, Daniel continued, Mr. Thompson anticipated this situation. The addendum was conditioned on specific behavior from the listed heirs, behavior which, unfortunately, has been clearly demonstrated. The judge leaned forward. Explain. Daniel turned slightly, just enough for me to see his expression. Calm, certain. The will included a secondary trust, he said, naming my client as the sole beneficiary. The trust includes liquid assets, properties, and majority ownership in Thompson Freight Logistics and Riverline Distribution. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Marcus's chair scraped loudly against the floor as he stood up. That's a lie. Those companies were split. Daniel cut him off. They were transferred into the trust 7 years ago. Quietly, legally, and without your knowledge. Marcus's face flushed red. Dad would never. The judge raised his voice. Enough. Lorraine turned slowly. Her eyes locked on mine. You knew, she said, her voice trembling. You knew something and you let us. Let you what? I said, finally speaking. My voice sounded stronger than I felt. Laugh at me? Humiliate me? Pretend I didn't matter? Her lips parted, then pressed together tight. The judge reviewed the documents in silence. Pages turned, pens scratched. Every second felt stretched thin like a wire pulled too far. I see here, the judge said finally, that the trust activates in the event of complete exclusion of Ms. Thompson. Marcus scoffed. That's ridiculous. The judge looked at him. You left her with nothing. Silence again. This court finds, the judge continued, that the trust is valid and enforceable, effective immediately. Lorraine's legs gave out. She dropped back into her chair like the air had been knocked from her lungs. Marcus shook his head, pacing. This isn't over. Daniel leaned closer to me. It's just beginning. The hearing ended quickly after that. No celebration, no applause, just stunned faces and shattered confidence. In the hallway, Lorraine cornered me. We're family, she hissed, her perfume cloying now, sickly sweet. You don't have to do this. I met her gaze. I didn't. He did. Marcus stormed past us, shoving the door open so hard it banged against the wall. Outside, the sun felt brighter than before. Warmer, like it was finally allowed to touch me. Daniel walked me down the steps. There will be backlash, he said. Challenges, media. Your brother won't take this quietly. I know, I replied. What I didn't know was how far he was willing to go. That night, my phone rang nonstop. Unknown numbers, voicemails filled with anger, pleading, threats wrapped in fake concern. By morning, my name was everywhere. Headlines, comment sections, opinions from people who didn't know me. Forgotten daughter inherits empire. Family feud explodes after court reversal. I moved out of my apartment 2 days later. Daniel insisted. Security concerns. The new place smelled like fresh paint and polished wood. Too clean, too quiet. I stood in the empty living room, keys heavy in my hand, and felt something unexpected. Loneliness. Money didn't erase that. It amplified it. 3 nights after the hearing, a package arrived. No return address. Inside was an old cassette tape. My hands shook as I held it. The label was faded. My father's handwriting. For her. I sat on the floor, legs crossed, and dug out an old player Daniel's assistant found at a thrift store. When I pressed play, the tape whirred softly. Then his voice filled the room. Baby girl, if you're hearing this, it means things went the way I feared. Tears slid down my face. I didn't leave you unprotected. I left you prepared. The tape crackled. They'll try to make you feel guilty. They'll try to scare you. But remember, everything I built with you in mind. The tape ended with a soft click. I wiped my face and exhaled. Outside, tires screeched somewhere too close. I looked up just in time to see headlights flash across my windows. Something was wrong. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "You should have stayed out of this." I walked to the window slowly, heart pounding. Across the street, a car sat idling. Lights off, engine running. And in that moment, I realized the inheritance wasn't the end of the story. It was the trigger. The car stayed there for a long time. Long enough for the quiet to turn threatening. Long enough for my heart to beat so hard it felt like it was knocking on the windows from the inside. I didn't move, didn't reach for the blinds, didn't step back. I watched through the thin gap as the engine hummed low, steady, patient. The kind of patience that doesn't get tired. The kind that waits for mistakes. My phone buzzed again in my hand. Another message. "You don't know what you've taken from us." Us. Like I was the thief. Like I hadn't been erased first. I stepped back from the window slowly and locked the phone, setting it face down on the counter. The apartment felt different now. No longer clean, no longer safe. The smell of fresh paint suddenly felt suffocating, like it was sealing me inside something I hadn't agreed to. I grabbed my keys and my purse, every sound amplified in the silence. My heels clicked too loudly against the floor as I moved toward the bedroom. That's when I heard it. A knock. Soft, controlled, too polite for midnight. My breath caught. I froze, listening. Another knock, firmer this time. "Open up," a male voice said. Low, familiar. Marcus. I felt anger flare before fear could catch up. White hot and sharp, cutting through everything else. I walked to the door but didn't unlock it. "You need to leave." A pause, then a chuckle. "You really think hiding behind locks is gonna save you now?" I leaned my forehead against the door, eyes closed. "This is harassment." "Call the cops," he said. "Tell them your big brother came to talk." I straightened. "You're not talking, you're threatening." His voice dropped. "You don't understand how bad this messes things up." I laughed once, bitter. "I understand perfectly. You built your future on money that was never yours." Silence. Then his tone changed. Sharper, meaner. "Dad wouldn't have done this if you hadn't filled his head with your little sob stories." That hit deeper than I expected. "You're wrong," I said. "He saw you. He saw all of you." The door rattled as he leaned into it. Not enough to break it. Enough to remind me he could. "You think that tape makes you special?" he said. "You think some old words give you power?" I stepped back slowly, my heart racing again. "I think you should leave. Now." Another pause. Footsteps retreating. I waited until I heard the elevator ding. Until the hum outside faded. Until the building settled back into its nighttime groan. Only then did I sink to the floor, my back against the door, shaking. By morning, Daniel had already heard. "He crossed a line," he said over the phone. "I'm escalating security." "It's just him," I said. "Angry, desperate." "He's neither," Daniel replied. "He's calculating." The days that followed felt unreal. Meetings with advisors, documents to sign, names of properties I'd never seen but somehow owned. Numbers so large they stopped feeling real. Yet every night I slept lightly. Every sound pulled me awake. Every shadow felt like it moved on its own. Then the smear campaign started. Articles questioning my legitimacy. Anonymous sources hinting at manipulation. Comments calling me greedy, opportunistic, ungrateful. Lorraine went quiet. Too quiet. Marcus stayed loud. A week later, I was served papers. He was contesting the trust, claiming undue influence, claiming incapacity, claiming fraud. Daniel wasn't surprised. "This is standard," he said. "Messy but weak." "What about the tape?" I asked. He hesitated. "There's something else." My stomach tightened. "What?" "Your father left recordings," he said. "Plural and documents. Evidence." "Evidence of what?" "Of their behavior," he said. "Financial manipulation, asset skimming. Things that, if exposed, won't just lose them money." I exhaled slowly. "You're saying I could end them?" "You could," he said carefully. "But once you start, there's no going back." I thought of my father's voice, of the hallway laughter, of the car idling outside my window. "I want to see everything," I said. 2 days later, Daniel laid it all out. Bank transfers, shell accounts, Lorraine funneling money quietly, Marcus leveraging company credit for personal investments. They hadn't just planned to cut me out. They'd been bleeding my father dry. My hands trembled as I flipped through the pages. The room smelled like leather and paper and truth. "He knew," I whispered. "He knew enough to document it?" Daniel said. That night, I didn't sleep at all. At dawn, my phone rang. "Lorraine," I answered. Her voice cracked instantly. "Please," she said, "we can fix this." I stared out the window at the city waking up. Sirens, engines, morning light crawling across buildings. "You already broke it," I replied. "If you expose us," she said, "Marcus will go to prison." I closed my eyes. "That's not my choice. It's the consequence of his." She sobbed softly. "Your father would hate this." "No," I said. "He prepared for it." The line went dead. An hour later, Daniel called. "Marcus just made a move," he said. "And it's bad." My heart sank. "What did he do?" "He filed an emergency injunction," Daniel said, "and he leaked something to the press." "What?" I asked. Daniel exhaled. "He's claiming you aren't your father's biological daughter." The room spun. "Say that again," I whispered. "There's more," Daniel continued. "He says he has proof." My knees weakened, because suddenly I understood the real reason my father had been so careful, and why this secret could either destroy Marcus completely or destroy me first. The accusation didn't hit me like a scream. It hit like silence, like the moment after something shatters, when your ears ring and your body hasn't caught up yet. Not his biological daughter. Those words kept circling, slow and poisonous. I sat there holding the phone long after Daniel stopped talking, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. The woman looking back at me didn't feel like she belonged to anyone. Not my father, not my family, not even herself. Every memory suddenly felt unstable, like it could tilt in either direction. The way my dad used to look at me, was it love or guilt? The way he protected me, was it devotion or compensation? I hated myself for even thinking it. Daniel called again an hour later. "We're countering the injunction, but the media picked it up fast." Fast didn't begin to cover it. By noon, my phone was useless. Notifications stacked on top of each other until the screen lagged. Messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Headlines with question marks instead of facts. Is the heiress really his child? Inheritance battle takes Deanna turn. I turned it off. Daniel came by that evening. The apartment lights felt harsh, too honest. He set his briefcase down slowly, like he didn't want to spook me. "Before you hear it anywhere else," he said, "there's something in your father's files." I nodded once. He anticipated this too. Of course he did. Daniel pulled out another envelope, smaller, cream-colored, my name handwritten on the front. "For when they try to erase you," he said quietly. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a hospital document. Old, yellowing, folded more times than I could count. A blood transfusion record. My name. My father's name. And beneath it, a note in his handwriting. Love doesn't need matching DNA, but truth still matters. My breath broke. Daniel continued. You're adopted. The word landed clean, sharp, final. No denial rose up, no confusion, just clarity. I know, I whispered. Daniel blinked. You knew? I didn't know how, I said. But I always knew there was something. He never hid it from me. He just didn't label it. I remembered the way he'd always say, You're mine, never you're my blood. Daniel nodded. Marcus doesn't know this part. Not all of it. What part? I asked. He's demanding a DNA test to disqualify you. I laughed softly. It won't. No, Daniel said. It won't, but that's not the point. The point was humiliation, doubt, control. Marcus wasn't trying to win legally anymore. He was trying to break me publicly. 2 days later, we were back in court. This time the room was packed. Cameras, reporters, whispers slicing through the air. Marcus stood taller than usual, smiling, like he finally had something he thought I couldn't take from him. Lorraine sat behind him, pale, rigid, eyes darting like she was waiting for a trap to spring. The judge listened, carefully, too carefully. Mr. Thompson, the judge said, you're alleging your sister has no legal standing as an heir. Correct, Marcus said confidently. She's not his blood. The room buzzed. I stood when Daniel nodded. Your Honor, I said, my voice steady despite the heat crawling up my spine. I don't deny that. Marcus froze. Gasps rippled again, louder this time. I was adopted, I continued, legally as an infant, with full parental rights. Lorraine's head snapped up. Daniel stepped forward, placing documents on the bench. We have the adoption decree, Your Honor, signed, filed, and recorded. The judge reviewed them slowly. Marcus shook his head. That doesn't matter. He still favored her, manipulated by emotion. I met Marcus's eyes for the first time in days. He raised me, loved me, prepared me. And what about us? Marcus snapped. What about the family he already had? The judge looked up sharply. Enough. Daniel cleared his throat. There's one more item. My pulse quickened. The trust includes a clause, Daniel said, stating that any attempt to disqualify Ms. Thompson based on her adoption status would trigger a full forensic audit of all beneficiaries. Lorraine stiffened. Marcus frowned. What? It also authorizes release of all documented evidence, Daniel added, to regulatory and criminal authorities. The judge's eyes narrowed. Evidence of what? Daniel glanced at me. I nodded. Financial fraud, he said. Lorraine stood up too fast. This is absurd. No, I said softly. This is accountability. The judge ordered a recess. In the hallway, Marcus lunged toward me before security stepped in. You planned this, he hissed. You let me walk into it. I leaned closer. No, you walked in because you thought I was weak. His eyes burned. You're not even his real daughter. I didn't flinch. I'm the one he trusted. That's when I saw it. Fear, real fear. 3 weeks later, the audit results came back. Every dollar, every transfer, every lie. Marcus was arrested quietly. Early morning, no cameras, just cuffs and consequences. Lorraine avoided charges barely, but lost everything else. The companies, the properties, the reputation. I sat alone in my office the night it all ended, city lights blinking outside the window like distant stars. I played the last recording my father left. If they ever question who you are, his voice said gently, remember this. Family is choice, power is responsibility, and silence is never protection. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow the world would see me as the woman who won. But tonight, I was just his daughter. And the final piece of the secret was about to surface. The final piece of the secret wasn't written in court documents. It wasn't locked in a bank vault. And it wasn't something money could hide. It was sitting in a safety deposit box my father never told anyone about. Not Marcus, not Lorraine, not even me. Daniel discovered it while closing out the estate, weeks after the arrests, when the chaos had finally gone quiet enough for the truth to breathe. He called me late in the evening, his voice lower than usual, careful. "There's one last item," he said, "and I think you should see it yourself." The bank smelled like metal and antiseptic, cold air, cold walls, everything designed to feel permanent and controlled, the kind of place secrets expect to live forever. The clerk slid the small steel box across the counter. "Number 417. My hands rested on it for a moment before opening it. The weight felt heavier than it should have been, like it carried more than paper inside. When I lifted the lid, I didn't see money. I saw photographs, old ones, worn edges, colors slightly faded. My breath caught. It was me, not a baby, not an infant, a toddler, standing on the front steps of a house I didn't recognize, a woman kneeling beside me, her arm wrapped tightly around my waist. Her smile was tired, protective, afraid. I picked up the next photo, a younger version of my father, standing awkwardly to the side, watching us, not touching, not claiming. Yet, Daniel swallowed. There's more. Beneath the photos was a thin manila envelope. Inside it, a handwritten letter. Not in my father's handwriting. I unfolded it carefully. "If anything happens to me, please make sure she knows the truth. I didn't leave her because I didn't love her. I left because loving her was putting her in danger." My vision blurred. The name at the bottom hit me harder than any courtroom ruling ever could. My birth mother. My chest tightened as I read the rest, slowly, carefully, every word heavy with intention. She'd been involved with someone powerful, dangerous, a man who didn't like losing control. When she tried to leave, the threats started. Surveillance, warnings, men who asked too many questions. She ran, she hid, and when she realized she couldn't disappear completely, she made a choice. She gave me to my father, not through abandonment, through protection. She described him as the only man I trusted not to sell her safety for comfort. Tears slid down my face, silent and unstoppable. Another document sat folded beneath the letter, a sealed statement. From my father. He wrote about meeting her, about the fear in her eyes, about the night she handed me over and walked away without looking back, because looking back would have broken her. "I didn't save her," he wrote, "but I can save this child, and I will." That was the moment he became my father. Not legally, not biologically, completely. Daniel cleared his throat softly. "There's one more thing you should know." I looked up. "The man your birth mother ran from," he said, "died last year." My pulse slowed. "For years, your father suspected Marcus knew pieces of this story. Not the full truth, just enough to weaponize doubt." I thought of Marcus's rage, his fixation on blood, on legitimacy. "He didn't just want the money," I said. "He wanted to erase me." "Yes," Daniel replied, "because as long as you existed, your father's choices proved something about him. That love wasn't transactional. That power didn't belong to those who grabbed it first. That family wasn't defined by entitlement." I closed the box. The story didn't go public. Not all of it. Some truths are meant to restore, not entertain. Marcus was sentenced quietly months later. No speeches, no statements, just time. A lot of it. Lorraine moved away. New city, new face, old consequences. As for me, I stayed. I took control of the companies, cleaned them, rebuilt them. Not in my brother's image, not in Lorraine's shadow, in my father's. Some nights, I sit by the window of the office he never got to enjoy. City lights humming below, and I play his old recordings. Not because I miss the power, but because I miss the man who never once let me doubt that I belonged. They laughed when I was left with nothing. They thought the story ended there. But what they never understood was that the secret my father protected was the very thing that made karma unavoidable. If you're still here, comment your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.